Today I have an update to share featuring news a couple weeks ago that I think went pretty under the radar, being that Palantir hired a former IBM Watson Health executive as its first US government chief medical officer. In this video, I'll read through a couple articles on this and then share my thoughts and takeaways at the end as to why Palantir has done this and what it means. Let's go. A quick look at the stock, we'll see it's rebounding today a little bit more. If we zoom out to the 6-month chart, of course, Palantir stock is still down quite substantially, 25% I will add, but has continued to rally a little bit off of the lows from the AM of their earnings release day back on May 11th. Anyway, to the subject at hand. Palantir has hired its first US government chief medical officer, a former executive from IBM Watson's Health business, as the data analytics company doubles down on its life sciences business. While the company made its name in software used by government defense agencies, sales to health-related agencies in the federal government have doubled over this last year. The company announced earlier this month that it hired Dr. Bill Kassler to lead public health and life science teams across Palantir's domestic and global businesses. Kassler, formerly Deputy Chief Health Officer at IBM Watson Health, said in an interview that he would bring his expertise in clinical care and public health to the role, helping to connect the software to researchers who could benefit from it. So here's a quote: "Palantir is just an exciting group of young, talented engineers and data scientists and real intelligent, smart people. But in order to deploy technology, you have to understand the theory and the logic and the practice of healthcare and public health. I think we see a lot of technology companies that want to get into health, but don't know that, make mistakes because they're not intimately familiar. And what I can bring to Palantir is my expertise as a clinician, as a public health doc, as someone who has been working in this field for years to help with the science and the strategy and the relationships." In his new role, Kassler said he wants to help put Palantir's technology in the hands of researchers who can use it to make smart decisions in the next pandemic. He highlighted 3 areas he believes can be improved with the help of tech solutions like Palantir's: patching supply chain issues, dealing with localized surges of cases, and tackling racial and ethnic disparities. Palantir's Foundry platform has played a significant role in the US government's response to the pandemic, as well as private companies' handling of essential supply chains. Palantir's technology allows researchers to combine and overlay datasets in ways that can make supply chain weaknesses or outbreak hotspots more obvious, allowing them to act quickly on their findings. Kassler said he wants to see the technology used for more everyday use cases too. One example he gave is how the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, has already used the technology to help narrow the possible sources of an outbreak linked to produce. Rather than recalling produce from a large region, Palantir can help the agency trace the supply chain and pinpoint a smaller target. "We don't know what the next pandemic will be," Kassler said, "so we have to be prepared. And in order to do that, we have to have invested in the systems that are able to have that situational awareness and to be able to enable organizations to respond quickly." He said he aims to guide Palantir's efforts to build analytics software for healthcare providers and life science companies to help them get more use out of their massive stores of unstructured data, unlocking those restricted silos, as we've heard so often from Palantir. Chief medical officers aren't just for hospitals anymore. CMOs, not to be confused with chief marketing officers, have begun popping up on the executive rosters of tech giants looking to expand their reach into healthcare. And as we've seen, William Kassler was CMO for IBM. Prior to that, Kassler held CMO roles at New England Regional Office of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. He was also previously the chief of the CDC's Health Services Research and Evaluation Branch. At Palantir, he'll lead the company's public health and life science teams, which develop analytics platforms for governments, commercial, and international clients. A key part of Kassler's new position will see him serving as something of a translator between the technological expertise of Palantir's data engineers and developers and the healthcare experience of the company's clients. I think that's the main takeaway here, and that's a big part of Palantir hiring him and what his role is meaning to do. He says, "I've spent my career as an internist and a public health doctor at the interface between health and healthcare, at both the clinical level and the population level. I've always tried to use good data and good science to help inform inform clinical decisions at the bedside and in population health and in policy. Today, we are really just awash with data, and what excites me about Palantir is their platform for bringing together and integrating all sorts of very, very disparate data, then curating and aggregating that data to provide new insights for payers, providers, clinicians, and government. Palantir's platform has been used in healthcare initiatives for over a decade. The first of these came in 2010 when Palantir teamed up with the CDC to coordinate foodborne outbreak data submitted without a standardized format for each state's public health agency. Julie Bush, head of Palantir's public and government health initiatives. Within a few years, the company had attracted new commercial partners from the pharmaceutical, biotech, and clinical sectors. Bush says, from drug discovery to observational research to helping these companies with their own sales and marketing, focusing anywhere there are multiple data sources that need to be brought together to answer critical questions very quickly. The success of those collaborations, in turn, fueled more public health-focused partnerships with government entities like the FDA and National Institutes of Health, with Palantir's software being used to manage regulatory drug reviews, compliance investigations, analysis of high-throughput screening data, and more. Palantir's health-centric projects hit a fever pitch in 2020, during which it more than doubled its business and client base in the US government, health, and life sciences sectors. That exponential growth was driven by the company's work to help hospitals, biotech developers, and public health organizations better manage the pandemic, including tracking personal protective equipment, shipments, and overseeing vaccine distribution. Despite that wide and growing range of use cases, the common thread throughout each of Palantir's solutions is the set of problems driving their development. Those problems, and Palantir's core areas of focus, revolve around four major needs: greater harmonization among various data sources, stronger data security and access controls, more efficient management of analytic models, and better collaboration between medically minded clinicians and researchers and their data scientist counterparts. Those four areas will drive Palantir's efforts under Kessler's guidance to help its clients continue to solve what he defined as the biggest problems in healthcare: achieving equity, delivering value-based care, and developing new therapeutics. In each of those, he said, both the biggest challenges and the biggest opportunities center on data. And here's another quote: "The data is siloed in multiple walled gardens. It's locked in clinical EHRs. It's locked in unstructured notes and databases. We also have a vast amount of new data being collected from implantables, continuous glucose monitors, and wearables, in addition to newfound information being gathered on the importance of non-clinical determinants of health. We have the ability to apply advanced analytic techniques like AI and machine learning, but we first have to get that data together and into a format that'll let us take advantage of these wonderful technological developments." That's what's really exciting about the tools that Palantir has to offer. So in conclusion, this is quite clearly a play on expanding Palantir's life sciences efforts. After all, we'd recently heard more on that focus specifically during the first DoubleClick presentation. Overall, this isn't a game changer for the company or the stock, but this hire is good as it shows Palantir is very much looking to expand, even in unconventional ways, since it is not a traditional software business and operates in many different dimensions with its products. I think building depth across a team is invaluable, especially when it comes to marketing and attracting clientele. Ultimately, it appears the company's first CMO will aid in effectively deploying Palantir's technology by understanding the theories and logic behind healthcare and public health, which is nothing but good news for Palantir's continued commercial expansion. So I do think this story slipped under the radar a little bit, and I was asked to explain it in a video. So I hope this read-through and analysis was insightful. Until next time.